Hi, I'm Anthea from Quilting Antics. Today I'm here to show you how to make my cute little mice. So to start off with, we've got our cute little mouse drawings, and it's this simple. You pop your mouse drawing under some calico, and the cheaper calico the better, because then you can see through it. And with a pen you just copy the lines, and don't worry if you're not perfect, because you're going to cut this out afterwards. So any little imperfections you can just sort out afterwards, it'll be absolutely fine. So I'm going like the clappers to get round this little mouse. Where are we? Oops. Put the little face on. And draw the arms in, because these are going to be your sewing lines for further on. So I've decided on my little mouse I'm not going to have a tail this time. Let's keep it simple. So if you do two little mice, and you can put them back to back and you can make cute little decorations. So that's my mouse there. And then what we do, we use this in our form, which it's a foamy material, and it stands up on its own, which is going to give our little mice their body. So first of all we get the iron, and we iron our mice, our calico, to stick to it, and then turn over, and then iron the tweed onto the back there. Now let's just move that to one side, because I'm like Blue Peter today, and here's one that I made earlier. So I've got my little mouse there, I'll cut out. So I've got the tweed on the background. Now I should have explained that what I'm doing, I'm starting with the background material, and then I'm going to build everything else up on top in layers to end up with a cute little mouse. So working from the right side, I'm simply going to sew on my line there. So if you struggle with accuracy or anything else, you've still got another chance, because when you cut this out afterwards, you can correct any sewing that's not perfect. The purpose of the sewing at this stage is to hold all the layers together. So let's switch to the machine now. The thread that's going to show on the right side is going to be the bobbin thread. So you need a nice tightly wound bobbin, so that it's going to be nice and neat. So just nice and slowly, just sew around the outside of the mouse. If you put all the detail on at this stage, that's absolutely fine, but equally you don't have to, because you're going to come back, and when you dress your mouse, you're going to put all the detail on then. And I've decided I'm going to change my mice slightly from the original design, and I'm going to put blindfolds on, and we're going to have 3 blind mice. So let's keep going round. Now the ears, I am going to put all the detail in now for the outer part of the ear. And you'll see why when I turn it over in a sec. Or in a minute when I get all the way around. These would make charming little decorations for your Christmas tree. If you hung ribbon on them, and as I say, do one in the mirror image, so that you can put 2 back to back. Or they'd make a mobile for a baby, if you're expecting an addition to the family. So as you can see, I'm getting round really quickly. It's not difficult, just take your time. And if you stray off the line, really don't worry about it. So around we go. And I can see already that I'm not perfectly on the line, and I'm really not worried about it at all. Just keep going round this arm, and then I'm almost on the home straight. Can get some speed up going down this straight bit. and then slow down to go into the foot, and just one stitch and turn, one stitch and turn. Just take your time and you'll get round any curves that seem awkward at first glance. The top of the shoe is going to be put on when we put the fabric on. So round we go. Oops, just round the inner leg now, and then I think we're back to the start position. Here we are. Now you could tie the thread off nicely, but today I'm just going to cut it off. And this is what we've done so far. That's sewing from the wrong side. That's what I've been looking at. But on the other side, if I flip it over, can you see? We've got a nice bouncy image there that's appeared on the other side. So now what you do, get your scissors and we'll cut it out. I find it easier to cut out from this side. And if you see on the foot, my stitching hasn't perfectly gone on the line. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to still use the drawing line to cut round, and nobody will know, oops, let's turn it the right way around. When I've finished, nobody's going to know that I didn't hit the line. I'll do that when I get back round to the other side. So as I'm cutting out, the mouse is now just a little bit bigger than the drawn image, because I'm cutting as close to the stitching as I can, but you can't help but just add a fraction. So again, if your stitching's on the inside of the line, it really isn't going to matter, because the purpose of stitching round is to hold your layers together. So you can see it grows really quickly. It'd be a great project with this for doing with children, because they're following a line, so it's a bit like colouring in really. Well, you know, drawing on the line, should I say. So a great project to do on rainy days. And if you snip through your stitching by accident, I mean, for the most part it wouldn't really matter, but if you are concerned, just re-sew the part that that you've clipped. It's not going to, these seams aren't going to take any stress, so they'll be absolutely fine. They're just going to hang up or decorate your wall or whatever else you can think of. I really fancy making a mobile out of these for my new granddaughter who's due any time. I think it'd look fantastic, as long as they're out of reach, and you know, have a little think about what you're adding on. So you wouldn't want to put tiny beads on if it's for a baby. Keep it safe. So here we go, back round to the start. Oops. If you find you struggle with the big scissors, you could always swap to some smaller ones to do the fiddly areas. So there we go. I've cut him out. Oops. Let's get rid of that thread. Cut him out close to the line. Now when I turn him round, just have a little look and see whether I think he's okay. And actually, that's not too bad at all. So the fun part now, so when you did the drawing, you drew on this part here, which is kind of the top of a leotard. So I'm going to make mine pink. And it's as easy as this. You just cut a piece that's roughly, well, it's a little bit bigger, as you can see, the size that I'm working on. And then on the right side, pop your piece of fabric over so that it's covering the area that you want to cover. Now you can pin that, but be careful, because you're going to work from this side. So if you've got a pin on this side, on the right side, you don't want to accidentally sew through it. So if you know, do be a bit careful if you're pinning. But you can see there, my pink fabric is covering this area that's the leotard. Take it back to the sewing machine. And this time, all I'm going to sew around is the part of the leotard at the top. And again, if you're not 100% accurate, really don't worry about it. So it'd be fun to put little beaded necklaces on, as I say. Just be careful who the recipient is. If it's a, you know, a young child under 3, obviously you've got to think about small parts, but if it's an older child, it would be absolutely wonderful to just bling it up. Right, so here we are now. Let me come around the side of the sewing machine. So I've stitched that pink part on there, and I'm going to switch to some small scissors this time, just because it'll be a little bit easier to get in. And all I'm going to do is, my scissors are going between those 2 layers, and I'm going to clip this pink fabric back to my sewing. Doesn't get any easier than this. So there's no messing about cutting tiny pieces of fabric to correct shapes. You just cut up to your sewing. So if you've made any mistakes going round that you're not happy about, just clip the leotard so that it's the right shape, and disregard the sewn line. You know, you can correct it as you go. Just be careful you don't chop its arm off as you go past. That wouldn't be a good look. A little bit fiddly, just going round the shoulders and the arms. And if you do chop an arm off, you can always pretend it's behind her back. There we go, just tidy it up a little bit. So if you look from this side now, and I can see that there's just a little bit of pink showing there, so I'll just snip it back. And then on the front side, I'm fairly confident that it's looking good. So my mouse is now wearing a little leotard. So next part, I want a tutu. So if we get some organza, it's see-through, so it's quite difficult to see on the camera. So I've just got a strip. Let me measure it. It's about 3.5, 4 inches wide, and it's about 12 inches long. So just fold it in half, and I'll get my needle, which is, anyone see my needle? Here it is. So just a needle and thread. I've put a knot in the end, and on the folded edge I'm going to put a little running stitch. So I've folded the fabric in half, and I'm managing that fold as I go, because you can see it's just slipping between my fingers. So I'm managing it as I go, straightening it up on the bottom edge. It's not difficult. I'm making it sound more difficult than it actually is. Just a really random running stitch. Just talk among yourselves while I get to the end. And again, if your layers aren't perfect, don't worry, because, you know, bally tutus do fluff out, and you can always tidy it up with scissors afterwards if it's really, really uneven. So I'm nearly at the end now. Let's pull my thread through. Now you could even tack on the machine if you want, but as you can see, it's not really been difficult to do it by hand. And this frill is going to go along the bottom edge, so I'm gathering it up till it gets to the width that I want. So it's, I'll turn it round, you might see better. Can you see the fabric is the width of the waist? I'll just finish that off, tie that off in a knot, and then it doesn't come undone. And once it's secured with a knot, I can ease out the gathers and make them a bit more even. And this top edge you can hide under some ribbon anyway, so again, it's one of those that you can make as many mistakes as you want. Great for young children because it's really not going to show. Just even out the gathers and then pop that across the bottom of the leotard. I'll just take it back to the sewing machine. I'm making a slightly longer stitch length, just to make life a bit easier stitching across, because I'm going to cover it with some ribbon as well. So on we go. This time I'm going to fasten my thread off, because if she gets played with, I don't want a dress to fall off. Where are we? That longer stitch length is really helping to climb over these gathers. And when I get to the other side, I'll end it off as well. This is going to be hidden, this sewing line, so don't worry. You know, if you're going backwards and forwards. Right, so there we go. And what we'll do now is find a little bit of ribbon, and that can just go over the skirt. So I'm going to turn the end under. I'll have the scissors and I'll snip it when I get to the end. Just put the ribbon on top. I've got my scissors here, which I'm going to use just to help me get this under the machine, and then I don't prick my fingers. And then I'm putting the needle in before I drop the foot, because that way I'm not going to end up accidentally going through my finger. Got to the end, so I'll just snip that ribbon back and very carefully turn the end of the ribbon under. I'm doing this now and not at the start, because if I'd done it at the start and then the ribbon moves, and your efforts are all in vain. So by the end, you were fairly well there. That's it. Whoops. Chop that off. Let's have a little look, see what she's looking like. Let's get rid of these threads. Right, now then. So my dress is sticking up there, so I'm just going to trim that back. So again, making it easy for myself. And the ends here, I would probably use a matching thread normally, but I've got this one threaded, so I'm just going to use this thread. Let's go through a hand and get the end of the skirt and make it look like she's holding it. Oops. That's one hand done. Just snip that off. And then she looks like a little ballroom dancer holding a skirt up. And the other one, let's pop it into the other hand. This one's fitting a bit nicer. And then because, so you've got, well, not because, you've got two options here. You could either just embroider a little face on with a few strands of embroidery thread. There we go, we've got a skirt on. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some black fabric on her face, and I'm going to have a little blind mouse for 3 blind mice. So let's see what we can do. Black on there, and then using my little scissors, I'm gonna snip it back. You could put some ribbon on, that would look great as well. There she is, fit to go to a masquerade ball. Just tidy it up afterwards, maybe put a few little threads on. There we go, my first blind mouse. Thank you very much.